In this video, we got another episode of this series where I rate and improve your guys' teams. A lot of people have been commenting down below on YouTube and Twitter and just telling me that they think I should do this more often, because usually I only do it once per week, every Saturday or Sunday, but I thought maybe I'd start doing it twice a week, like maybe a Wednesday and a Sunday, just to kind of get more teams rated and look through more squads. If you guys like that, let me know in the comment section down below, but of course, let me know your guys' team and MT amount down below in the YouTube comment section, and I'll give you guys my best suggestion. Can't get to every single team, just want to preface this that once again, that there's like sometimes 50 to 100 comments of people putting their squad, so I try to get and respond to as many as possible, but if I don't, just comment on the next video and I'll obviously try to get to you if I can. But looking at the first squad here coming in from Freddy, he's got just over 100,000 MT on next gen, and he doesn't know who to pick up to replace Charlie, and he's also grinding for Alonzo Mourning. So yeah, if you were to get to Alonzo Mourning, that would obviously be a great backup power forward, and you could potentially even start him over Hakeem if you wanted to. So I would definitely try grinding for Alonzo Mourning, and for this type of squad, for the rating, I'd probably give this like an 8.5. It's just a good all-around team, and that's really only your one upgrade would be at that backup power forward position. I think for now, I honestly think Scalabrine could play your starting 3, and then you could have Thurl Bailey at the backup 4. That's what I would do personally, is go after the hero Scalabrine. He's around 100,000 MT. Sometimes he might be a little bit more, like 110, 115, maybe 125 at the most, and then sometimes I've seen him for a buy now for his hero version. If you pick him up at the 3, I think he's such a good small forward. You know, 6'9", great jump shot, has the best dribble sigs in the game. The card's just overall a glitchy small forward, so I'd recommend putting him at your starting 3, and then moving Thurl Bailey to your backup 4. I think he'll be fine, you know, beside a Marcus Gasol, beside an AK-47. I think he'll have enough size and enough defense. Be all around a really good squad. I would say easily an 8.5 out of 10. Looking at the next squad here coming in from Zurli, I think it's how you pronounce it, Zurli TV. He's got 1 million MT right now, and he's got a very decent squad. Like, he's got Yao Ming, you know, obviously going to be super glitchy. He's got Terry Dishinger, he's got Steve Smith. I would say this is like a 9 out of 10 team. I'm not the biggest fan of like Oscar, James Worthy, and Chris Bosh. I know you're using them because you locked them in for Terry Dishinger. If you want to keep them, you definitely can. I would go ahead and get Marcus Gasol for your backup center position. I do think he's a lot better than Chris Bosh, especially at the 5. For your backup 3, once again, I would go ahead and get Scalabrine. I think Scalabrine is way better than James Worthy, and you could potentially even start him over Thurl Bailey, because I do think Scalabrine is one of the best small forwards in my team, and he's only about 100 to 125,000 MT on Xbox. He might be a little bit more on PlayStation. I think your shooting guards are perfectly fine with Terry Dishinger and Steve Smith. And then for your point guards, if you wanted to get 2 new PGs like a Hedo Turkoglu and a Jalen Rose, I think you can go ahead and do so. But if you like using Gilbert Arenas because he's a super fun point guard to use, then I would just recommend getting a Hedo Turkoglu or a Jalen Rose for the backup point guard position to play over Oscar Robertson. So for your 10-man rotation, if you want to keep Gilbert, I would go Gilbert starting, have Hedo Turkoglu off the bench, 2 shooting guards, Terry Dishinger, Steve Smith, 2 small forwards, Scalabrine, Thurl Bailey, 2 power forwards, Hakeem and Alonzo, and then your 2 centers would be Yao Ming and Marcus Gasol. And then after that, I think your squad now becomes somewhere in like the 9 to 9.5 range. But looking at the next squad here coming in from Bird, I'm just gonna call him Bird. Honestly, don't really know his name. J. Cole is his gamer tag. Grinding for Livingston to replace Walton. So he's trying to get Sean Livingston from Unlimited to play his backup point guard position. I would definitely recommend doing that. For your squad rating, I would say probably like another 8 to 8.5. Another just decent team. I think there's a couple upgrades you can make with about 250k. So first off, what I would do is look to get 2 better shooting guards. I would go ahead and get Ricky Davis and RJ. I think they're both better than Jared Wallace and Glenn Rice, and you're going to spend just under 100k, you know, for both of those. You might be able to get them for like 80k between the two, you know, about 70k for Ricky Davis, and then about, you know, 10 to 15k for RJ. So I would get those 2 guys as your 2 shooting guards. And then for your backup 3, I think if you want to go Thurl Bailey, if you want to go for a Kyle Kuzma, if you want to spend a little bit more and go after Brian Scalabrine, his hero version, for me personally, for this type of squad, I would go ahead and get Thurl Bailey to play your backup 3. And then I think your squad is probably fine. I mean, you could maybe look to save up for a Taco Fall, because that's probably like the one big upgrade you need. You don't really have that super tall giant, especially on your starting lineup. So I'd maybe save up for Taco Fall as well. But if you want to get some upgrades right now, I would get Ricky Davis and RJ to play your 2 shooting guard positions. And then I would also look to get maybe a Brian Scalabrine, a Thurl Bailey, or a Kyle Kuzma as well. But all around, definitely have already a pretty good team. Looking at the next squad here coming in from Shadow, I think it's to pronounce his name. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that first name, so I'm just going to call him Shadow. But yeah, he's got 75,000 MT. not the best team in the world. Like, it's solid. He's definitely got a solid squad here. I mean, Sabonis, I'm not the biggest fan of. Jonathan Isaac is cool. Like, I would say this team's like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. It's definitely a decent team. With 75k, you can't do, too much. But for your point guard position, I would sell Sengun, and then I'd probably just keep Luke Walton at your backup point guard spot. But I would definitely go ahead and get Hudo Turkoglu. I would also go ahead and maybe go after Jalen Rose, but like I said, I would probably just keep Luke Walton, to play your backup point guard position because he's super cheap. So for your starting point guard, I would sell Sengun and get Hudo Turkoglu. You might actually be able to make a little bit of MT because I do think Sengun goes for a little bit more than Hudo Turkoglu if we're talking about Hudo's out of position. For your two shooting guards, I would definitely get Richard Jefferson and Michael Redd. 100% got those two shooting guards. Richard Jefferson will be really nice next to a Hudo Turkoglu, bringing you that defense and slashing ability. And then you have Michael Redd next to Luke Walton, who's going to be a great offensive two guard. So definitely get both of those cards for only about 10,000 MT for each. So 20k spent so far. And then for your small forward, obviously like AK-47, I would just look to get a Thurl Bailey. You don't have to go ahead and get his hero, but I would just get his heroic one, which is only about 15,000 MT to play your backup three. And then I would also go ahead and maybe look to get a Jonathan Bender to play over Jonathan Isaac. I just do think he's slightly better at the power forward position. And then I think your squad is fine. Like, if you want to go ahead and get a Peter over Sabonis or a Tyson Chandler over Sabonis, I think both those guys, in my opinion, are slightly better than Sabonis. But if you like using Sabonis because of his size and you can green with his jump shot, then definitely go ahead and do so. So your 10-man could look something like, starting point guard Hudo Turkoglu, bench, Luke Walton. Your two shooting guards could be Richard Jefferson, Michael Redd, two small forwards, AK-47, Thurl Bailey, two power forwards, Hakeem, Jonathan Bender, and then your two centers, I would go probably Marc Gasol and Tyson Chandler as your two centers. Now looking at the next squad here, coming in from Nick, he's got 500,000 MT after Big Z and Sabonis do sell. So he's got 500,000 MT to work with and a very good team to start off with. I would say like at least a 9 out of 10. I'm not the biggest fan of cards like Glenn Rice, really not the biggest fan of Kawhi Leonard either. So what I would do personally, now this is just for my preference, I would sell Kawhi and Wilt. I don't know if you really like these cards, and if you do like them and you're really good with them, then definitely keep them. But for me personally, not the biggest fan of either of those cards. So I would sell Kawhi, sell Wilt Chamberlain. For your starting center, I would go ahead and probably look to get Marc Gasol, two players starting center position next to Taco, and you're going to save a lot of MT. If you go ahead and sell Wilt and then you have Marc Gasol instead, you'll actually save a lot of MT. And then for your shooting guard position, I would personally go ahead and get Ricky Davis. You really need that offensive card on your starting lineup because right now you don't really have that main offensive threat, your main ball handler, and Ricky Davis can definitely go ahead and do that. So I get Ricky Davis over Kawhi. Once again, going to save you MT. If you really want to use Kawhi Leonard because you like the card a lot, then I would just move Kawhi to the backup two to play alongside KPJ. And then also what I would do is slide Thurl Bailey to the backup 3, slide Hakeem to the backup 4, and then I would go ahead and get Pink Diamond Peter to play your backup center position. So your 10-man rotation, if you like Kawhi Leonard, for example, it could be Ron Artest, KPJ, it could be Ricky Davis, Kawhi, AK Thurl Bailey, Taco Fall, Hakeem, and then Marc Gasol and Peter. I think your 10-man rotation does become a lot better, and you actually probably be able to make some MT off that if you sell Wilt, and you can keep Thurl Bailey. You can maybe even sell some other stuff in your collection. Like, you might actually make some MT off that. And then if you also wanted to sell Kawhi, what I would personally do is just go get a Richard Jefferson, a nice cheap small forward that I think is honestly better than Kawhi. But if you like using both these cards, then you can definitely go ahead and do so. Just do the same thing I said, move Thurl Bailey to the backup 3, get Ricky Davis for the backup 2, or still start Ricky Davis because you need that ball handler. So if you do want to keep Kawhi and Wilt Chamberlain, I get Ricky Davis starting 2, Kawhi Leonard backup 2, and then same thing, just slide over Thurl Bailey to the 3, slide over Hakeem to the backup 4, and then just get Marc Gasol for the backup 5 instead of Peter. But looking at the next squad here, coming in from AR15, willing to spend 250,000 MT on his squad, and a very decent team. I'd probably give this like an 8.5 out of 10. For your squad upgrades, I mean, really not too much you can do. I would go ahead and get Ricky Davis or Richard Jefferson to play over Glenn Rice. I do think they're a lot better at that shooting guard position. And then for the rest of your squad, I would personally just play Marc Gasol starting center. And then I would go ahead and get Thurl Bailey, move him to the 4. So now you have Marc Gasol, Thurl Bailey in your front court with AK at the small 4 position. And then for your backup 3, I'd look to get maybe a Scalabrine, his hero version, maybe go get a Kyle Kuzma, Jonathan Bender to play the backup 3 if you want some size. So that's what I do personally for your squad. Look to get a Ricky Davis and a Richard Jefferson for your 2 shooting guard spots. Move Thurl Bailey to the starting 4, Marc Gasol to the starting 5, get rid of bonus, and then look to, replace that backup 3 with like a Jonathan Bender, a Scalabrini or a Kyle Kuzma, because I do think they're a lot better than a card like Sabonis, and I think that's pretty much all the upgrades and suggestions you need for your squad. But looking at the last team here, coming in from Husband Material, he's got 530k, and his team's like solid. Like, you got a very solid squad. I mean, Taco Fall, Dikembe, Manu Ginobili, who I think is one of the more underrated cards in my team. And we just really tried to improve your bench. Like, I would keep KPJ, but then for your backup 2, I would get Richard Jefferson. For your backup 3, I would go ahead and probably, okay, so you want to get rid of Tatum too. I don't know if you're like a big Tatum fan, but Tatum's really not going to be that great in my opinion. So for your 2 small forwards, I would go ahead and get Hero Scalabrini and AK-47 to play your 2 small forward position. For your 2 shooting guards, I would go ahead and get Ricky Davis, and then also get Richard Jefferson to play your backup 2. For your backup power forward position, I would go ahead and get the Hero Thurl Bailey. And then for the backup 5, just go ahead and get Marc Gasol. So for your 10-man rotation, I would go Manu Ginobili, KPJ. I would probably go Richard Jefferson and Ricky Davis just to bring some more. Or actually, no, I would keep Ricky Davis starting and then have RJ off the bench. But then I would start AK-47 just for a little bit more defense on the starting lineup, and then bring Brian Scalabrine off the bench. Next to Thurl Bailey at the backup 4, and then Marc Gasol at the backup 5. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of this series, why rate and improve your guys' teams. Let me know in the comment section down below, like I said at the start of the video, your guys' team and MT amount, and I'll give you guys my best suggestions to help improve your squad. But hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.